Making these tacos, I wanted to think a little outside of the box. I don't want to bury them in lettuce and cheese or cabbage. I want to make some delicious sides that can go on the tacos to kick up that flavor. So the first one is going to be some roasted sweet corn salsa. My husband roasted some corn the other night for us while we were having dinner, and I saved a couple cobs. I've taken one off the cob already. You can see there's just a little char on it. I actually soaked them in water with salt in it for 10 minutes, and then he put them on the grill and grilled them, and then I peeled them and he grilled them just a bit more so we can get a little bit of that roasted flavor. And you're just going to cut right down the cob. Now you notice I got it in a baking sheet with sides, so in case the corn decides to go flying, it's not going to be all over my counter. It's just going to be on the tray. And 2 cobs of corn, you get quite a few kernels out of this. I'll make sure I get as much as I can because it's absolutely delicious. Okay, so I'm going to put that into my bowl. And I'm going to set this aside. I'll be right back and get going on the rest of the ingredient. To our roasted corn, I'm going to add some finely diced shallot. You can use onion in this if you don't have shallots. I always have shallots at home, as well as fresh onions and garlic. And the reason I want to use shallot here instead of onion is the flavor's a little bit milder. I don't want any of the spices or additions to take over the star of the dish, which of course is our sweet corn. So I'm just going to dice this real fine. You don't need a lot. That should do it. I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. I'm going to add a little bit of fresh jalapeno. Now, jalapenos are on the milder side as far as chili peppers. And if your family doesn't like a lot of heat, they're a pretty good option, especially if you take the time to take out the core, the seeds and the membrane, because that's where most of the heat is. So I'm just going to use part of this jalapeno. I'm just going to, again, dice it up very fine. I think that should be plenty. And then I'm going to bring in another kind of heat. I've got these leftover peppadew peppers. I was using them for a charcuterie board. They're a little sweet and a little spicy and a little vinegary. And I think they'll be a great addition. They also are going to add a beautiful pop of color to this salsa. So again, I just want to chop them up fine. Cut them in strips. And dice them up. I think 2 might be enough here. So I got them into strips, and I'm just going to chop them up a little bit more. These are absolutely delicious. It's a new find for me. They tend to be used in Italian cooking, but I think they'll be great in here. Okay, the next is going to be a little zest of lime. You want the zest of the lime because it gives a brightness here. And then we're going to use the juice as well, and that'll give a little tangy tartness. Now this lime is zesting up pretty easy. If you get a lime that's too hard on the skin, you're going to have a hard time getting the zest off without taking off the white pith as well. And the white pith is very bitter, so we don't want to do that. Okay, that looks pretty good. And I'm going to juice this lime. I'm going to use all the juice. And hopefully it's got some. Ooh, this is not the best lime. It does not have much juice in it. So we're going to have to adjust this a little bit because it's the only lime I got and it's not very juicy. So we're going to take a little bit of white vinegar. Now this is Italian Modena vinegar. I'm just going to put a little splash in there. And that'll bring us some of the acid that we wanted from the lime. And then just a splash or two of your favorite hot sauce. It depends on how hot you want this salsa to be. We have varying tastes in my family. My son and I like it pretty spicy. My daughter's kind of on the medium side. And my husband's kind of on the let's not make it too spicy side. Okay, so we're going to get a spoon and stir that up. Okay, and you can see we got the corn, we got the yellow going. Got a little bit of green from the jalapeno, but not much. And I am going to add some fresh parsley. Now I know most people would say, well, where's the cilantro? Truth be told, my daughter and I both hate cilantro with a passion. My husband likes it all right. My son and his wife adore it. So in this instance, my daughter and I are going to win. We don't want cilantro in our salsas. So I'm just going to bunch this up and chop it up. Now, of course, you could put cilantro in there, or if you like, you could put a little bit of the flavor of coriander, which comes from the same plant, but it doesn't taste the same. Coriander is a little more fruity and aromatic. It doesn't have the bitterness that I associate with cilantro, but again, it's up to you. All right, so we got some beautiful green parsley in there. Okay, so I'm going to add a few more ingredients here. A little bit of fresh ground black pepper. And again, this is to taste as well, depending on how much you like black pepper. We love it in this house. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit of cumin. That'll give it really that nice Mexican flavor. A little bit of Mexican oregano. And I'm going to go ahead and crush this because I want to release all the oils. And a little bit of paprika, which comes from a pepper. So we've got all kinds of peppers going on in here. Okay, so we're going to mix that up. It's looking a little prettier now with that green and the red from the peppers. I'm going to add just a little bit more of the vinegar. Give it a little more tartness. And then we're going to add some extra virgin olive oil. And we're going to mix that all up. And then that's it for now. I will add salt to it before I serve it. I don't want the salt to leach the juice out of the corn. So I'm just going to leave it as is for now. Put it in the fridge. It'll actually get better if it sits in the fridge for an hour or two covered. Next thing we're going to make is guacamole. And I'm going to go ahead and slice through these so I can split them in half. You see the seed there? These are beautiful. You want an avocado that is soft to the touch but not mushy. You want to have some integrity here. Now, when I was growing up, my mom worked at the local hospital. We lived in a town that, shall we say, lacked in diversity, but I was lucky because my mom, working at the hospital, made friends with all the doctors and all the doctors' wives, and so we grew up eating food from Mexico, food from Kuwait, food from Korea. So at a very early age, most of my siblings and I developed a pretty global palate. And my mom's best friend was a lovely woman named Carmen who was from Mexico. By the way, to get the pit out, just give it a whack and twist, okay? And then that should come right off. And Carmen taught my mom how to make tacos the way she had grown up with them. So when she made guacamole, she had a few different ingredients that most people would think of, but she was from Mexico, so I think she knew what she was doing. And she made the most wonderful guacamole. So I'm gonna do her take on guacamole. Now, I'm gonna use a big bowl just to give me some room to move around. Now, you saw me just slice this one way and then crosswise, and now I can just scoop out the chunks very easily, very quickly. I'm just making a small amount. If I were doing this for a party, I'd probably have about 8 avocados going in here, but it's just for my husband and I, so this is going to be more than enough. And you can see it's all nice and chunky. Now, I'm not going to mash it. I'm going to leave it as is. Okay, I've got half of an onion here. I'm not going to use the whole thing. I'm going to use some of this later in another dish. But I am going to dice this up pretty fine. Again, in this case, it's the avocado that should be the star of the show, not the onion or the spices. So don't go too heavy on it. I'm going to slice this very thin so I can get some nice tiny pieces. And that should be about enough. Okay, to that, I'm going to zest and juice a lime. Okay, again, the zest is a little brighter, but the lime juice is really important in the guacamole for 2 reasons. Obviously, the number 1 is the great fresh flavor it's going to bring in, but number 2, it helps the avocado from turning so brown. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and roll this, get a little juice flowing. This one feels better than the first one. We're going to get some lime juice in there. This one's nice and juicy. But it's small, so I'm going to use the whole thing. And again, lime is something you're going to want to do to your taste. Okay, a few more things. Garlic powder. I'm not going to use fresh garlic in this because I don't want that raw flavor. I got about a half a teaspoon there. Cumin, just a few shakes. Just a touch of paprika. Gives a little bit of that pepper. Some ground black pepper. I love the taste of ground black pepper more than out of the jar. It's a little fresher, got a little more bite to it. Okay, and then a little bit of your favorite hot sauce. Now I'm using a sriracha this time instead of a traditional Mexican. I just like the flavor, not too much for my family. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mix this up. And the reason I'm mixing that up right away is so that the lime protects my avocado from turning brown, and I can go on to the next step. Now I do like a little freshness into my guacamole, so I'm going to put just a little bit of parsley. Not too much, just a little bit of freshness there. And again, don't like the cilantro, but absolutely you can put cilantro in here if you like this, if your family likes it. Okay, now the thing that made Carmen's guacamole a little different, she added just a little bit of jalapeno, just a couple of strips diced up real fine. Not so you're going to taste big clunky bites of jalapeno, it's going to be an undertone. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and toss that in. And the thing that really makes her guacamole controversial with my friends, because I've never heard of that in guacamole. was sour cream. Now she didn't put in a lot. This does not become a sour cream avocado dip. She put in about 1 good heaping tablespoon for each couple of avocados. And what it does, it makes it creamier, a little smoother, but it doesn't taste like sour cream. It's more of a, what's in there that's so good? Now just by stirring this up, these avocados are starting to break down. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Now, a trick Carmen taught us as well. Put your pits back in and bury them with the guacamole. And between the pits and the lime juice, this should stay nice and green until supper. When it's time to dish up supper, I'll take the pits out and I'll put it in a nice bowl so it is